I said, no problem. I don't do any of that. So the only hard part was they didn't believe in coffee and chocolate to be real strong back then. And back then they had no black people in the church, which was weird. People of color, as we say nowadays. White, black, brown, yellow, whatever color one is. So it's basically not up to us because we come into these suits not knowing what, I don't think, and maybe on the other side, but we didn't get to discuss when I would died the color of skin I would be coming in. But this one seems to be most suited for those with the most melanin, darker skin. And my granddaughter, fortunately, I've always had olive skin except my face, which is really strange for me. It's like a brown cow with a white face. So in school, it worked against me. They thought I was an Indian or Mexican. And then even when I worked for U.S. Express, they called me an Indian. And these white girls were pretty mean to me. They were very anti my kind. I had black hair and olive skin and a white face that usually stayed tan. And that was all the way up to when I was working after we got married and I had children. Oh, my gosh. It's your turn, Richard, to talk about hi. Okay, you're on the radio. Okay, Richard, it's my other daughter, Stephanie. Can you speak for a minute, Richard?
All right.
Thank you.
Anyway, like TJ was saying, yes, there's young love that we experience as teenagers, and sometimes they develop into full-blown relationships that leads to marriage and then childbirthing and all that kind of thing. And, of course, religion can or cannot play a part in it, depending on, what you inherit from your family, depending on what church they may be involved with and what customs and traditions they follow and all that kind of thing. But love is a sustaining voice within us. It is the strongest emotion that we have. And, of course, it leads us to believe in ourselves, to believe in God, to believe in others, to trust most emphatically in different situations. And it can be expressed, like I said, in hundreds of different ways. You can give gifts, you can do sentiment, you can do a phone call, you can do Skype nowadays, you can do Zoom nowadays, you can do all kinds of methods of reaching out that we didn't used to have, because back in the old days, you were lucky if you had a landline, and of course that was the majority of the phone calls that were transpiring around the world. Now, of course, everybody has cell phones and laptops and computers of all kinds of sizes, shapes, and descriptions, and so we have the ability to communicate on the go. And this is a good thing, and it's also a bad thing. You don't want to be communicating while you're driving by any means, simply because then you're distracted. You're not paying your full attention in what's going on around you. Instead, you're paying too much heed to what's going on the phone. But love can be expressed in all kinds of different sentiments in all kinds of different ways, and it's not purely between family. Sometimes you have a best friend that actually is more of a family member than your actual family members are. There's close-knit ties that develop sometimes through kinship, sometimes through shared experiences such as sports or other avenues that you both may be interested in. And the fellowship develops, and church in its nexus is supposed to be fellowship, to begin with, where you have a lot of like-minded individuals all gather in one place at one time in agreement from the sentiment that they all believe in God, and they've all met there to raise the vibrations of prayer unto God, which in turn in reflection becomes a love in and of itself, and all of this kind of thing. So love is a very sustaining nature within mankind. And we need more love nowadays than ever before, because naturally we are just in the process of coming out of pandemic and all of this kind of stuff, which led us into somewhat an isolated state. So we had less communication, less experiences together, and this kind of thing. So we are getting back to somewhat of a norm, I guess you could say, on a very slow process. But the love, is a fellowship that you just reach out to others and you share with them how you feel, and they share how they feel, and then of course you find what commonalities you have, what similar interests you have, and then you build a friendship from there. And then of course, if in fact it turns into love, then it develops into a relationship, and a partnership can be formed of any kind, and so forth. And this is what love is all about. I mean, love is the ability to look past sorrow, the ability to look past hardship, the ability to look past anything and everything that would bring you down, and see that there is always a good part to everything, even though you may not recognize it at the time that experience is happening. Love is the fellowship that we have as a race, rather than just the distinguished parts of our differences. Love is what binds us together, and love is what will sustain us, regardless of what goes on worldwide. There are many, many books that have been written about love, lots of poetry, lots of different fellowships have been developed purely on the basis of love and kinship and the familiarity of sharing experiences and sharing, where you want to go forward with things and this kind of stuff. And love is truly the basis for us all, and it will be love that in turn will lead us out of any kind of darkness into the light, you could say. And I appreciate all forms of thought and feeling and expression, and all religious understanding, scientific understanding, philosophical understanding, and all of these kind of things, because even they nowadays are leading to a point where we are beginning to comprehend that we are at our basis love in nature. And so therefore it is the expression of that love towards each other that is utmost in importance. And they say, of course, that everything is a vibration and everything is a frequency, and we are all energy, and that love is the most potent source of that energy, or the highest vibration of that energy. So therefore, if you try to be positive as much as you can, and you be loving in your expression towards others, then in turn that vibration is very high indeed, and it reflects the same unconditional love that is given to us by our creators. And so this is why it's of utmost importance. And yes, we experience all kinds of love as we go through life, and of course we also experience pain, and it is oftentimes the love of others and the support of others that will help us grow past that pain that we experience. TJ, you around? Well, anyway, love is essential. I mean, it sustains us in so many different ways. And through love, we develop inner peace, and we develop harmony, and we find joy, and we find the state of happiness. And once we've developed inner peace, then of course, there's nothing outside of ourselves that can actually disturb that inner peace. But again, this is a harmony of love. Love itself is the frequency that we all vibrate at when we are in a state of joy, in a state of happiness, and a state of contentment, one could say. It is kind of fickle in the aspect being that sometimes the love may be unrequited. You may seriously fall in love with somebody at first sight, and if in fact you make contact with them, you may find out that they have no such sentiments at all. And then other times, you can develop a friendship at first, and then it may blossom into a relationship. But love and kindness are the key most points in which we really need to start treating each other from this aspect and from this perspective, simply because there is too much separation and focus on differences and focus on all that is wrong in the world and all that is, hateful and spiteful and an expression of greed and all of these kind of things going on around us. And I'm not saying we need to bury our head in the sand, because we certainly don't need to do that. We should keep up on events that are going on around us.
Do that.
Hello?
I said there's plenty of sand around here where I live if you want to do that.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to tell you I'm back. Folks, I'm calling in from Gulf Breeze, Florida. It's beautiful, hot day today. Lots of people at Pensacola Beach now that as of June, the world's back open, at least here where I'm living. How about where you're living, Mr. Richard T. Knight, putting your head out of the sand, not in the sand, right?
That's a figure of speech, Anyway, yes, it's pretty much open. Walmart has officially lifted the ban on the requirement for people to wear masks, and various states are reporting that they've got 50% or more people inoculated or vaccinated or whatever. So therefore, they're not officially declaring that the virus is over with, but they are saying that, hey, we no longer need to be as frightened of catching the virus as we had once been. And so,
Well, I don't have to go anywhere, maybe to Walmart because I have to get my own groceries. But, my back and neck was broke, and I've lived with it and gotten better, just like Richard's just gotten his surgery, at least on his back. But, that's a different kind of love, too. My daughter just came by and knocked on the door just to check on me on Sunday. I know that sounds funny, but we live close enough that she can at least come by and see I haven't died and hadn't stunk the place up. But that's a form of motherly love and daughter love that we share. I have lost one daughter to cancer January. Well, it's March 16th officially, but it was the 15th day was terrible in my life on March 15th with her. But this daughter that just knocked on the door was really good and sisterly love. I've never seen anything like it. How deep Stephanie Parrish took care of her sister Gigi Parrish. And then Angela Parrish lived on the corner from me. And so Steffi did live down the corner from me, but they moved and got a big house. Big house. I guess it's a home in a house. A house that is a home. But it is the family and the love in the family that makes the home. Otherwise, people like me and Richard are very minimalistic when you get our age. We've already lived through the years. And it does have a lot to do with age, folks. We really need to look at that, especially in our Ascension Cosmos oracles. And those of you are haven't died yet or been on the other side or studied your past lives or anything in this unconditional love we have on this planet, it really does exist. It keeps us together. And yet some people will argue about our type of show or internet because we're a church online and forming the nonprofit, but that's the way churches do and teach love one another and unconditional love because that's our foundation. We don't care if you're blue, green, yellow, pink, have two heads and a tail or none of the above because really for number one on radio land, we can't see you anyway. But Richard and I have a curious background, and love, we just decided that's what we were going to base this on, unconditional love. And that sort of takes in anything and everything and whatever it is. So, Richard, you were talking about not separating and everybody just loving because it is the glue of the universe, is it not?
Yes, indeed. So.
Well, would you say all the way out above the cosmos? Because don't you have an explanation when you sleep and go into dream state or into lucid dreaming or into the other universes or places that you know you've been and you know it's not a dream? I was in one, really, I stayed up really late last night, not meaning to. I'll get working on the computer and forget how late it is. And I wasn't playing games. I was working till 1